Hello, ghouls, guys, gals, humanoids of all kinds, and any other type of life forms that may be streaming this broadcast. You are now joining me, Ashley Storm, as we get the paranormal, UFOs, cryptids, serial killers, and dark history all under one freaky little roof. A gathering place for the morbid curiosity to come and play and learn about the deepest, darkest parts of the unknown. Join myself and special guests such as paratech makers, MUFON experts, cryptid hunters, and segments of terrifying tales from around the world in person. Delve more in depth to these subjects than you ever have before. Take my hand and join me on our adventure as we go storming the unknown. Hello guys, Ashley Storm here for Storming the Unknown on RU Media Network. Tonight I have Mr. Goosby right up there from the Cryptic Paranormal show, and his show is also found on RU Media Network. Thank you so much. I know that tonight, like we were talking about earlier, is very exciting for you. He's currently up there with John Ward and his group doing the Madison Seminary, which we talked about a lot on our last show. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself to the people while I share the feed, please, sir?
Oh, yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is really cool. First time we're like actually talking to each other, not through Facebook. Yeah. But I'm the Gooz. My Christian name is Rick Goosby, but you know we don't care about that anymore. I'm the Gooz. I've been doing this investigation thing for. I was actually trying to figure it out a couple of days ago. But I always like the second season of Ghost Hunters is when I started actually investigating. But I've been reading and researching since probably the age of 13. So I've been in the ghost part of the paranormal world for quite a while. I work with Dark Alley Paranormal. That's like the team. We're like a family. I love it, and we've been running the Cryptic Paranormal show on RU Media Network for. Well, RU Media Network, just for, since they started it, but the Cryptic Paranormal show has been going on for over a year now, so we got a good Michael, I forgot his name, Michael Bradley. Sorry, Mike, if you're watching.
I was about to say, he's going to be so mad.
Well, we call him so many different things. He goes, his nickname's Heisenberg. He had this like character he did for a while called Max Braggins, the defunct demonologist, and
like Zach's
long
lost cousin.
Yeah, that's what it was. And but Angry Kitty, they call him. I'm at Madison Seminary right now. All the crew and staff here call him the Angry Kitty because he's just got such a straight pan face. But going back to what I was doing, I've been investigating for feels like a long time now, and it hasn't gotten boring at all. I love it, and it's more exciting every time I do it. So, a lot more into it than that. We'll probably get into here in a minute. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I was going to ask you about, and I mean, I didn't know you'd been doing it since you were 13. Mm-hmm. I love people who have that background, that it's long lasting. It's, it's not something you came into as an adult, because as children, when we do it, and as teenagers, we're way more open-minded. And I think that is like a completely different level of understanding what we're dealing with when it's not just, because we saw it through different eyes,
Yeah.
I've had experiences ever since I can remember, literally thought it was normal to see dead people. Like I was in The Sixth Sense, like I'm little Haley Joel Osment, like I see dead people. And I actually ended up watching that when I was like maybe 8 or 9 years old, and I was like, oh my god, like that even more made me feel like, okay, they're definitely gonna lock me up in a loony bin if I keep talking about it. Because we had just moved to New Orleans, and going from Guam to there, it was completely different. Like, I'd be like, do you not see that person in the middle of the playground? I'd be like, do you not see that person? She's like, just standing right there. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, okay, we don't talk about it here. Get around the, no offense, but the white folks.
Right.
We don't talk about it around them.
Geez. Yeah.
That's a no-no. And then I saw that movie and I was like, oh shit, this is really not okay. Like, oh, they were sending him to like a doctor and everything, and I was like, well, the doctor was dead.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of, it was the same thing for me a little bit. We moved into this house when I was 5 years old, and I'm not really. I mean, I have a lot of empathic ability, and I think a lot of that's just been through all the investigation time I put in. You can actually, I think, improve your sixth sense as you do this, and you become more sensitive to things. But I grew up in a house. Like I said, we moved there when I was 5. I grew up in a house where we had a lot of unexplained things, and it was freaking me and my little brother out. I mean, I was 5. I take that back. I was 10. He was 5. Because we're 5 years apart. Mm-hmm. And, a couple years later, we find out that the people who previously owned the home, both of their kids died in a car accident on the way to school. And then, and it was always weird because it's one of those situations where you always felt like you're being watched. You'd be walking through the house and stuff would just like fly off the shelves. And, as a 10-year-old, I didn't know how to comprehend this. I had no idea what was going on. And, I was always, right away, I'm like looking for the cat, the cat's not around anywhere, cat's sleeping with my brother or whatever. And, but the thing is, I didn't have anybody really to talk to about it, trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And I knew it was affecting my brother too, because I'd wake up in the middle of the night and, it's bad enough we're dealing with, some kind of spirit in the house, but I'd wake up and he'd be like half out underneath my bed, like camping out on my floor. So I'd roll out of bed and like he'd be laying there's his body on the floor. So it like scared the shit out of me even more. But I know it was affecting both of us. So it all kind of summited when I had probably the most extreme experience. I actually woke up one night and we always left the bathroom light on. I mean, I know a lot of homes with kids do the same thing, just so there's some kind of light, when you're sleeping. It was like right across the hall, and I wake up and I had this horrible like pain in my head, and like I felt like a pressure like on my body. I couldn't move. And a lot of people would say that maybe that's sleep paralysis or this and that, but I saw these black figures, and I never went back to sleep. Like there was never a moment of where I was foggy brained. I knew what was going on. I witnessed this, and I could see 2 mm-hmm. dark shadows just standing in the room. I could see them because the light was behind them, and they were just like at the end of my bed, looking over at me. And that was it. I mean, I had to do something. I had to figure out what's going on, because, like I said, I didn't really have anybody to talk to, and a lot of that was because of the religious background I was we were a part of at the time. And mm-hmm. I mean, how it is. Anybody who's been any kind of...
We talked about this like, right before we started. It's hard when religion, mm-hmm. like regionally even, right. Because there are still lots of places, like I said, the Bible Belt part.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's you don't talk about it. It's very
right.
taboo. Yeah. And as a kid, that's horrifying.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And we were members of a Pentecostal church, and they're a little bit more extreme with a lot of their beliefs. And, mm-hmm. I was afraid to talk to my parents. I don't know what they would have done. I mean, I honestly don't, but I was afraid to talk to them because I just knew, growing up in that kind of church, it was either you're going crazy or you were touched by a demon. You know what I mean? It was like one of 2 extremes, but there was no middle gray area where, where spirit nope. Just either you're out of your mind or you're possessed. It's one of the 2.
Or the preacher's coming over and we're getting this fixed.
And you might, in the congregation we were part of, that was a community thing. And I didn't want to be pulled up in front of the whole congregation and like, this child needs cleansed. I'm like, no, I'm not going through that. But so I started reading, like sneaking books at school, reading, by authors like Hans Holzer. Everybody in the field knows who Hans is. Lloyd Auerbach, and all their different theories, and just books on like scary stories and evidence and stuff like that. So that eventually kind of lit the fire under actually getting out there and like investigating. That was many years later. So that's kind of how it all started for me. But I definitely understand like not being in that place where you can't really talk to anybody. You kind of have to start. You have to start researching on your own.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you even mentioned this, that, it was from the, second season of
Yeah,
Ghost Hunters you've been doing
yeah,
this. I mean, a lot of it is because we finally saw people get out
yeah.
there
That's exactly.
and it wasn't crazy anymore.
Yeah,
These people weren't being locked up for going and trying to
yeah.
chase the people that they feel around
Hmm.
them constantly. It was it was a relief,
Yeah.
but it's also to a point now where it's ridiculous. Like, I'm glad they have shows like the new Ghost
Hmm.
Hunters. I'm actually very surprised, and I mean, I could just say nice things about it because of Daryl,
Yeah.
but I'm actually very surprised. I'm incredibly happy with what they're doing because
Yeah.
it's showing the real aspects of it. It's going into a place and saying, if you get nothing, you get
Right.
nothing. Not
Yeah.
creating tension, not creating
Oh
drama,
yeah. Yeah.
and also not making everything a demon.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you said,
Yeah.
with that drives me nuts because it also makes people very
Oh, it
irresponsible.
does.
The ones who just go out there to try and say, hey, oh, I saw this location on a TV show. I'm going to go out there and try and find
Oh
what it
yeah.
is. And if you treat something negatively enough, you feed it that negative
Mhm.
energy and it's going to grow into
Yeah.
one. Or you can give the negative energy that's already there more strength and more power to hurt
Oh yeah.
people, to have a larger hold on them, even when they are gone from these places. And calling everything a demon
Yeah.
definitely does not help, because I've personally been to a location that they did trying to debunk it. Like, because I was like, there's no way everything in this world is a demon. I know that for a fact.
Right.
But I went there, and this location, especially I think because of what that show, that the attention that show brought to that place. Because I mean, you have tour groups that'll take people out ghost hunting to this
Yeah.
area, and I wouldn't let my worst enemy go there.
Oh right.
Like, it was one of my worst experiences, and people take them there all willy-nilly and be like, hey, it's hokey, but they don't realize
Yeah.
that feeding that energy that's in a certain location, especially with that fear constantly, they're making trouble for themselves and everybody else around them. And I like people like you who are responsible
Oh,
about the way you go about it.
yeah.
um
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, I've done stupid things like that earlier on. I've gotten, and it was more out of pressure because we were lucky we got ourselves involved in things, in historical societies and places like Madison Seminary earlier on in the formation of our group, to the point where they were trusting us to, do public ghost hunts and stuff for them like that. And, I was getting into you almost feel pressure to like produce, like, these aren't, avid ghost hunters. They don't really know what's going on, but they see shows like Ghost Adventures and, other shows like that, and they expect like nonstop action and crazy stuff.
yes.
And
And then when they don't get it,
okay,
they'll get ornery.
yeah, yeah, and and a lot of times you'll have like free roam at the end after you guide everybody through, and then next thing you know, you got to be kicking all these people out because they're up there yelling and dropping f-bombs, that the spirit's just being disrespectful, and it's no good. And it like you said, the negative energy does feed on that. It's like food for them. It's like
Absolutely.
just shoveling it in. And sometimes that builds to a point where something will happen. And 9 times out of 10, from what I've experienced doing this for so long, is when they retaliate, they're going to retaliate against somebody who doesn't deserve it. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
see somebody who comes in that's a little bit weaker and a little bit milder, and that's the person, unfortunately, who's going to end up. I've seen it here a couple times, and it's where that person ends up getting what the other person should have got for being a smartass. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah,
Yes, and we talked about. I mean, you talked about that last time on your show.
yeah,
Not the recent one with Brian
mhm,
from Bearded Paranormal, but the one before that, where Brian Murray,
yeah,
I think it was, had
yeah,
to cancel.
yeah,
But when you go into a location and you look or you expect certain things, one, you sway your mindset to how your night's gonna go.
Right.
No matter what you truly get that night in evidence, whether it's, you know, an audio capture or even, you know, maybe a picture or video or some type of anomaly, you're going to have that swayed from previous experiences from other people to fit that mold. So it could be saying something completely different, but you want to hear that certain response or that certain, you know, dictation back so much that that's what you end up hearing.
Yeah.
But it's also that when you go in with, like we said, that negativity, it just makes you weaker to the point where, like you said, it'll attach, it'll do whatever it can to mess with you.
Yep.
And when it drives me nuts. I'm getting so frustrated thinking about it because
It
how many
is
times I see people doing it, and I'm trying, because I'm really trying to be nice about this. I'm really trying to, like,
oh, come on, let it out, Ash.
sound like
Don't
a
hold
complete
back.
asshole. But I'm trying to be nicer for the baby's sake.
Gotcha. I hear you.
You look stupid when you do that. I mean,
yeah, you do.
When you go in and you act like you're supposed to be attacked, when you act like you're supposed to be, you know, scratched or possessed and all this other crazy shit.
Deep breath.
You don't understand what it's really about then. Like, you don't truly understand what these energies can do then. You don't really know what kind of power they have, or else you would not be opening yourself up like that.
Right.
It's one of the most insane things that I've ever seen, and it really drives me nuts. I've just been thinking about it because of what happened recently at a public hunt that they did at the location that I was talking about.
Okay.
And now that I just keep thinking about it, I mean, what happened to me, I ended up in the ER because I couldn't keep anything down for 2 weeks after I left that place. As soon as I walked away from that location, like went to the parking lot trying to get to my car, I automatically got sick. I've never been scratched in my life.
Yeah.
I had 3, like, thin but, like, sharp scratches right down my back to my neck. And I had a hoodie on the whole night with a flashlight, like the lamp flashlight, the head ones, over my head. So there was no way anything could have gotten into my hoodie to scratch me that night.
Right.
I kept having temp ratings at 6.6.
Oh, jeez.
And it was 40 degrees out. 39, 40 degrees everywhere else. But every time I felt that, you know, energy rush me. And I'm not saying it was a demon, but it was definitely evil. People also don't realize there's a difference between the two. It doesn't have to be a demon to be evil.
No.
People summon that type of energy there all the time.
Oh, really?
And we leave our energy. I guess that's the biggest thing. We have to be aware that we leave our energy in these areas.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And, you know, that was my experience too. Like I said earlier on, I didn't fully grasp the whole energy thing. I just, you know, because I read the books and, you know, I had knowledge, but, you know, practical use of that knowledge wasn't quite there yet. And, you know, I wasn't say I was like really provoking, but I was being pretty stern. I was kind of like, acting the part of an irritated kind of mean warden type thing. You know what I mean? And being very bossy, like trying to get the entity to walk down, because I had people that had paid to be there to see something happen, and I didn't quite understand how that worked yet. And so I was pushing whatever was there to do something that they probably weren't wanting to do. And that's the whole thing with that negative energy thing. And it's not possession, but when you start putting out the negativity and they start feeding on that, you're also letting yourself more open to that negativity, because it's coming from you. And
you're like an anchor for it at this point, and a battery for them at this point to continue.
Right.
And they'll make your life worse just to make you more negative, so they have that hold over you.
Yeah, and they know how to get in. I mean, that energy knows how to get back in you. And it wasn't like possession per se, but I was I was getting negative, and I guess before I knew it, whatever that this pissed off old man or whatever this crazy guy was, he found an open door, and next thing you know, I'm dropping F-bombs trying to get something to happen, and at this point, I don't even know what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm just being this crazy mean guy, just saying F you, F that, and I guess my co-investigators were like, "What's going on, man? What's his problem?" And I was getting mad. I guess I was getting angry, like, and it got to the point where it culminated. I actually threw a punch at my co-investigator. And that's not me. I don't fight. I'm not a fighter. I'm not that kind of guy. And
hadn't you said that they hadn't seen you angry like that up
yeah.
to that point? Like they've never seen you in that mindset?
No, and that's not me. I'm usually a really cool, laid-back guy, and it takes a lot for me to get really upset. I mean, and so that happened. And I'm just telling you what they told me, because there's that period of time where I was almost blacked out. Like, whatever was there, that negative energy, it kind of was speaking through me at that time, and it was scary as shit. And I learned my lesson real quick, and I wish other people would too, because they're going to get hurt, or somebody else is going to get hurt or sick, like in your case, and they're going to open up stuff that wasn't there maybe at first. But I don't know.
And when I tell you, like, I legit, part of what I practice for my group is I use every single type of ritual, religion, rite, every type of cultural belief. I use a little bit of everything, because you don't ever know what you're truly dealing with.
Right.
Now, saying that, I cleanse myself thoroughly in so many ways that nothing had ever attached itself like that before. Yeah. And it wasn't even like it was an attachment. It was like it was mad at me for leaving the way I did, because I didn't let it get the best of me, and it wanted me to come back and just kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
Because as I was trying to help this place, it's Goatman's Bridge in Denton, Texas.
Okay.
And first of all, it's a college town, so there's a lot of just stupid teenagers that go out there causing trouble, disturbing that energy in the first place.
Yeah.
But that bridge is so particularly just negative, like it's like a black void almost. And it's not just the bridge, it's that whole like creek bed. And there are multiple spirits there just like trapped. And you have to keep in mind, this place also dates back to like the early, I think it was 1700s, when they started using that area as an actual cattle and herding trail throughout that part of the U.S. at that time. Now, you had bank coach robberies and stuff like that. Like, people were just always dying in these areas.
Oh, wow.
There were some older energies, there were newer ones. There have been accidents since, even just in the past like 4 or 5 years, there have been a few accidents. Yeah. And it was like every single energy in this place was trying to reach out and get help. But there was this stronger energy, and it was evil as shit, but it wasn't demonic, and that was so not scary, but it was something I did not expect.
Right.
When we finally went up underneath the bridge, there were a bunch of satanic summoning sigils. Like, we looked everything up, and it was for summonings and for bindings. Like, it was something was brought to this place and now just harasses whoever ends up getting stuck there, or whatever was stuck there naturally. And in trying to help them cross over, it was like a personal vendetta. So you don't ever know why they'll follow you. It could be for a reason. It could be just because they think that you'd be fun to play with.
Right.
And it's not always demonic, and so you need to be able to differentiate between the two. These people went there and they called it demonic, and that's what got me. I kind of did debunk them, so ha ha. It's not demonic. It's evil, but it is not demonic. And to me, something that's evil like that has no boundaries, that was just brought into this world, can be way more dangerous than something that has rules set in place, like demonic energy does.
Right. That makes complete sense too. And I don't know, I'm always asked, when I do interviews or, in just general conversation, have you ever encountered something demonic or, a non-human? And I haven't. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and, I don't think there's been any case where, anything that I've dealt with is inhuman. I just, negative energy, pissed off old men that don't want you there or didn't like people to begin with or just were evil people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you said, you have to differentiate and like kind of, why would you want to summon something more than that's what's already there and already pissed off? It doesn't make any sense.
What bothers me the most about that, I think, is that I think they were just like playing around, or not even playing around, just being like, "Hey, we're bored. Let's see what we can go and do."
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't realize what you're playing with. Like when people play with Ouija boards aren't always necessarily evil. They're not. But when you put it in the hands of a bunch of dumbasses,
Yeah.
some who wants to come and play can come and play, and it's insane. And that's kind of the whole point of what we do. And even RU Media, what they do with Resident Undead, what they do with the oh my gosh, why can't I remember
The ripples in time
right now? Yes.
Yeah.
Before I started watching any of their videos, I always used to try and do stuff like that, like recreate that energy from that time in history.
Yeah.
Because I like to do a lot of historic sites.
Right.
Recreate that energy for them, because that same almost vibration that you give off from recreating that moment in time could be just that frequency they need to come through and talk to us.
Right.
Like it's all about the energy of it, and it's awesome that you believe in it, because like I said, I watch his show, so I know that you guys talk about that stuff a lot.
Yeah.
Now,
the ripple, you were talking about the ripples and like reenacting moments in history. People don't understand, like they're always asking you like, what's your favorite piece of technology? What's your favorite tool? And I'm like, my head. I mean, knowing what you're walking into, like I mean, knowing history. Separating the history and the true facts from. A lot of times when you get to walk through these haunted places, you get a lot of the urban legends, that type of thing. But understanding what's there, like just something as simple as walking. Like we were at Moundsville Penitentiary in West Virginia. One of the big places that everybody loves to go to around here. It's an awesome building, but just something as simple as walking up and down the cell blocks, saying it's cell check time, and walking in and out of like just random cells, and saying what you're looking for. And we got two instances of cell door slamming, and we heard a couple voices. So it just something as simple as that, and like having knowledge of the history and what's going on there can get such an awesome response. You don't have to sit there and poke the bear. You don't have to do it.
And it gives you a more intimate almost understanding of them, and when you can resonate with them on that level and get to know them literally personally, because they were people at one point. I think that's something that people also forget. Just because they're a spirit or a ghost now, or whatever you want to call them, they at one point had humanity as well. They need to be treated as such. And when we treat them like they're toys that need to respond for us, what do you really expect to get when you're trying to command something that would probably just respond to reason?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the haunts we deal with, and when we go into these historical buildings, they're residual. They're it's just energy that's just replaying the same moment over and over again. They spent their life there. I mean, a lot of them died there, or whatever. Just that energy is there. It's not even necessarily like full blown apparition type intelligent stuff, but when you're there and you're kind of meshing with that and kind of rolling with what that they dealt with on a daily basis, I mean, the interaction could be amazing. So
yeah, it amplifies, like I said, it's like a battery. It amplifies their ability to also, and because it's residual, it's not going to change, but it does give them, I guess, a bigger jolt to work with, so you have a more intense experience.
Yeah, and a lot of times from that you'll get an intelligent response, and you'll hear the door slam, or you'll hear the voice that you can't explain. So you don't have to go in there and start yelling at things that, they're not circus monkeys. They're not there to perform for you. So just my
exactly.
Yeah.
Steve White said, what are your thoughts on all ghost boxes getting so theatrical? Is this more for show with the echo and reverb and the lights, or is it something that could really help the spirit's communication?
That's a good question. Uh, Steve, one of the things I've noticed doing this for a while now is that a lot of these pieces of technology have like, it's like almost like fashion. You go through cycles where certain things are like the new thing or in style. Um,
Like iPhones, and
yeah,
then as soon as
yeah,
you finally get the money to
hmm
buy the nicest one,
yeah.
they come out with the other.
Well, I remember, when for Ghost Hunters first came out. I mean, nobody really had EMF detectors. Nobody really used that to communicate with things. If they had one, they used it for getting ambient readings and and recording data. Um, then it kind of spurred into them using it for communication, and then you have things like the K2 come out and the millimeters and that type of thing, and people use that for communication, except what they were instead of what they were originally built for. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I have a couple of them, and I've done it, and we've had amazing results. And I kind of feel the same way about all this ITC stuff coming out, the spirit boxes. You know, I'm not 100% for that kind of technology. I don't know the science behind it, so I can't put any stock in it either way. All I know is,
Mm-hmm.
I come at investigation work with an open mind that anything is possible. And if I see somebody use something that gets an interesting result, I want to try it for myself. I want to see if it works. I want to see why it works or why it doesn't work. So, like with spirit boxes, I had the SB7 originally, because that was the hot item at the time. I've seen Frank's boxes. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Frank Sumption, but he kind of started the whole. He was one of the original minds behind the spirit boxes. And he wasn't even trying to speak to ghosts. He was trying to make contact with with aliens. Then that type.
With aliens.
Yeah. But I do I believe in? I don't put any stock in the science behind it because I don't think there really is any. I mean, but I've had some really crazy, amazing stuff that I've gotten through different types of spirit boxes, and I don't really care. I mean, the SB7 and like something like the Geo box or whatever else that people are using. There's the only big difference is the noise cancellation and the white noise reduction and stuff like that, and the reverb. To me, that's just cleaning up the audio that you're getting.
What we would end up having to do
Yeah,
naturally in,
yeah,
review.
right. And I mean, it makes it nicer. Does it make it work better? I don't know. But am I going to still try, mess with them and experiment with them myself? Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, I had the SB7. Now I have it's called the S box. It's one that the Ghost Stop company has put out. I've been trying to build, like a Geo box and Andre's box type thing. I have an actual box, a casing, a beautiful piece that was built by my friend Jeff Fent. He's pretty well known with the boxes that he's been building. That's actually partially made with wood from Madison Seminary here. So it's almost got kind of almost like a spiritual, energy to the box just itself. And
Those are the boxes that he makes out of historical
yeah,
locations, correct?
yeah,
Or like haunted locations.
he's made one out of the Eloise Hospital in Detroit. I know he's working on a Hinsdale box. So yeah, I mean these are really cool, and they're made from spiritually charged material. So, but to answer Steve's question, I mean, yes and no. I guess I think it works. I've had great experiences with them, but then there were days where I've seen people use them and say they got this awesome response, and it just sounded like somebody singing, on the other side. So I don't have I don't have 100% either way, but like I said, it's just like this fad. It's like a fad thing, in a year, people might not be using spirit boxes anymore. They might be, onto something else. So
Using the virtual reality things
yeah,
like the PDA from Jeremy Jones. That thing is pretty awesome,
yeah,
though.
yeah.
That records live in time. I mean,
Hmm.
that literally solves that whole, oh, I didn't have my camera on me. You
Yeah,
always have a camera on you.
yeah,
It's freaking awesome.
yeah.
Um, one of, I will say this about the spirit box things and the ghost boxes. There are so many that legit you can get an app from anyone pretty much that's a ghost box, that's that's an Ovilus, you know, look-alike type deal. But you have to be aware of who's making it first and foremost. There are two particular gentlemen who make ITC devices, and I would trust those over anything else because, like you say, you continuously experiment with them because, one, you don't know how valid they are until you test them out yourself.
Right,
it's scientific experiment. And to get the same types of responses are just some of the most intense and intelligent responses that you've ever gotten to these certain devices, like Dave Miller, Dead Time, and like all of his ITC Legions apps just blow my mind because as a person who can talk to them, I'm getting messages from them, I'm having conversations with them, to get what they're telling me coming through on the device. I mean, it's one of the craziest things in the world, and I'll just sit there, like, I don't even record half the stuff that I do. I'll go out there and just be like, all right, talk to me, and do it, because I just love seeing the validity in it.
Oh, yeah.
But you do have to be careful. You have to be super careful about which ones you get. You cannot just, because it's free. If it's free, it's fake.
Oh, yeah,
They put certain responses in there. Like, when I first started trying to download the apps just to mess with them, there was one that it was like the same 10 responses that I kept getting over and over and over again. And it was like hanged, murder, blood, and I'm like,
well, people don't understand a lot of those are already pre-programmed with word banks, and you don't, the people that are, putting these together and programming these are using those catchwords,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
And oh no, it's okay. And it's because that's true, and that's why I like Dave Miller's, because he doesn't use words. He uses like different sound banks. Like he mixes the sounds down to where it's not just words that would come through. So it works off of the different sound banks. One of the newest ones, the Dead Time one that he has, it's actually a bunch of different responses that people have gotten through spirit boxes. So does the spirit want to use a spirit's voice more than it would, so I love I guess kind of the technology, but just the thought process behind that. Would they be more inclined to use that spectral voice than, a human voice or a voice that we give them? And the sounds are scrambled then, but they can manipulate it, and I've had some of the craziest responses that I've ever gotten in my life, and like they were coming through in like full Choctaw and stuff, and this was not programmed to know like this language. I was at a Broken Bow Asylum in Oklahoma this summer, and it came through in like full chant and everything, and there were people who were watching in the feed who are part of the Choctaw Nation were like, yo, that was translating for me or telling me what it was, and it was amazing because I'd used that app plenty of times before and never gotten anything like that. And then to be in Choctaw Nation, part of where they flooded out Hochatown, which was all of the old Cherokee reserve, they were just like, hey, we're just going to take your land, and they were like, no, so they flooded it out instead. I mean, it was pretty freaking crazy. So I just say play around.
Make your own decisions, but be smart about it.
Yes. If you're getting blood and murder every 2 seconds, turn it off.
There's only like maybe a couple apps that we use on a regular basis. We're big fans of the Phasma box app, the Windows based. You can only use it on a Windows device, but it's digital. It's digital radio coming through. But we've had, when you start training your ears and you're using your head, just common sense, when you're listening to these things, you can start picking out like what is radio from what is unexplainable.
It gets very easy. It's like your brain nitpicks it out kind of almost just real quick. It's like a filter.
Yeah, yeah,
because
and
you can differentiate the frequency it comes through in.
right, and you got to be mindful of the frequency it's playing back at, and like the length of what the response is, as opposed to like how many times something's cycling through a station or a frequency. Um, it's really important to kind of figure that out before you like even start really using it for investigation. But like the Phasma box, we were getting, just for instance, we work a lot with a place I grew up, the town I grew up in Shalersville, Ohio. They have a small museum. It's like the historical museum, and we've been the first and the only group that's been able to investigate there. And we've had fundraiser, public events where we've been able to raise some funds for them to continue to improve the society and the building and things like that. But we were doing private investigation and using the Phasma box, and we were getting this guy that was trying to tell us a story. He was very upset. He kept saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." But unfortunately, it was just kind of one of those things where he was so emotionally tasked by whatever event had happened that he was trying to apologize for, that we never got a real answer from him. But we were asking him, like, what happened? He's just, I'm just so sorry. And it was the same guy, same gentleman's voice. It was very prominent amongst all the the babbling going on with the app. And it was kind of sad because it was kind of sad and kind of scary because we didn't know if it was a guy that maybe did something like horrible, to somebody, or he was like guilty about something that was like an accident that happened. But he was definitely apologizing for something. We just unfortunately couldn't get. But we've had things like that with the Phasma Box app that we haven't really had luck with any other app because, like you said, pre-programmed word banks, and just with just negative words, scary words that just keep playing over and over again. But going back to the boxes though, we do this thing in our group, and it's not just our group. I know a lot of other groups that use this method with the spirit boxes. Is whoever's running the spirit box will have noise canceling headphones so that they can't hear the questions being asked. And a lot of times we'll have it set up where we're in a different room, and then the rest of the team is in a different room, and they're asking the questions. So they're asking the questions, and like I, as the listener, is just sounding out what I'm hearing coming through the spirit box, and that has worked amazing for us. We've had, especially here,
because again, you're not swayed by anything. You're
not
legitimate results.
Right, you're not hearing the questions. You're not front loading yourself to like hearing audio that's not really there. But like I'm at Madison Seminary right now, and we've had some amazing stuff here. I mean, just like that, like responses like that made absolute sense. So there is validity to it, and like I keep pushing for, you just got to be really careful.
That's with anything that we use, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you just be careful. Safety first, then teamwork.
Yeah, exactly. Be careful, and realize what you're doing before you start trying to get the posting things as evidence and stuff like that.
One of the most amazing things I will say that I had never expected from using ITC devices, because again, I was a very big skeptic, and that's actually part of why I started using them so much.
Yeah.
Was because I wanted to sit there and see if it coincided with what I was getting personally from this energies and the spirits that I was interacting with, because what better way to debunk it than use somebody who they frickin' talk to?
Yeah.
To see if the response is valid.
Right.
When I was doing my Bonnie and Clyde ambush museum the first time I ever went, and I go alone.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there and I was reading her poem, the last poem that she ever wrote, and then she left with her mother, not even like weeks before they got gunned down in Louisiana, right there, 7 miles down from that museum that I was at.
Okay.
And keep in mind, nothing had come through for like 4 hours. They were very not distrusting, but they were very on guard. Like, they did not want to just open up to just anyone. I feel like they get a lot of attention naturally anyway, and they don't like it because they were made such a spectacle of in death. And I started reading the personal history I had written, which is completely different from anything you'll hear any other story about them.
Oh.
Like I'm on their side. I started reading her poem, and all of a sudden, keep in mind, all the devices have been quiet pretty much all night long.
Yeah.
You hear footsteps and you can see shadows and stuff, but you don't hear them at all until I'm partway through with her poem, and then all of a sudden on one of the ITC devices I have, it comes through in a full sweep, and she says they won't give up till they die.
Oh, wow.
And finishes the poem, like finishes that line of the poem for me.
Oh, that's
and in a
amazing.
complete full sweep in a woman's voice, it comes through and she says they won't give up till they die. And literally like picked up where I had left off, because I stopped reading for a second because I felt her finally like come near me. And I almost stopped what I was doing because I almost started crying. Because you feel that energy when they connect with you through these devices.
Yeah.
You can also feel it emotionally
Sure.
most of the time, because they're drawing your energy as well as the technology's energy to end up communicating with you. It's like a direct response, or direct line, pretty much. Yeah, that one was one of my favorites. I love going back to that place. That's my home. So I know you have to go and do your investigation. So for the last 20 minutes that we have, I want to talk to you about the cryptid and MUFON, well, not MUFON, but UFO experiences and the paranormal experiences.
Okay.
The different theories that they have on how they actually all connect to each other.
Yeah.
Or at least have some type of, correlation.
Right.
And relationship.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I started this paranormal thing just, the ghost hunter, the spirit, investigating the afterlife type thing. But you can't really get away from the other stuff because we're all in one big family. And it's kind of funny because you watch people online and they try to keep everything separate, and oh, you're a ghost guy or you're a Bigfoot guy, whatever. But there's a lot more crisscrossing, intersecting with the different aspects of the field. And there's a lot of theories out there, like for instance Bigfoot, that why haven't we seen, why haven't we been able to get that 100%, he exists or it exists, whatever. Then people start, coming out with a theory that, well, maybe he's not of this world. Maybe he's some sort of, alien, type being.
I've always thought that.
Yeah.
I've always thought that Bigfoot, when people have Bigfoot sightings, it's actually they just saw an alien, and the alien shapeshifts, and it's nobody's gonna believe that they saw Bigfoot, because they've been watching us for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And and it's actually, I really started thinking about this when we had Tom Wertman from MUFON on our show, back in the spring. He was talking about some experiences he had in the field, working with other people. He had a Sasquatch sighting and a UFO sighting in one experience.
At the same time?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or how they always, anytime people see a cryptid of any kind, they also mention the fact that they see bright lights in the sky or certain types of formations above them and things like that. There's always that correlation between the two.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're Seth Breedlove. I've seen some of his stuff, and actually he presented at the Kent Paranormal Weekend, which I was emceeing that week, and he showed a bit of his footage. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I got this stupid thing on my phone. It keeps popping up with advertisements. I don't know. Okay, there you go. Sorry, just went blank and I thought I lost you. But
no, you're good.
they were the same conversation in his documentary. It was, why haven't we been able to catch Bigfoot? Why haven't we been able to get that 100% undeniable proof? And there was a whole theory on they were not of this world. They were aliens, and the correlation between those sightings. And then you also have the people people on our end, the spiritual side, that think that these are some kind of spiritual entities, like there's maybe protectors of the forest.
Skinwalkers
Yeah,
or shapeshifters, different types of
shapeshifters.
Native American
Right.
or
Well, yeah. I mean,
ancient types of magic.
right. Exactly, and that could be very possible too. I mean, you can't be in our field. People always ask me, "Well, you believe in Bigfoot? You believe in ghosts?" I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, don't I kind of have to with the open mind that I go into this part of the field? Shouldn't I believe, in the possibility, if nothing else, that something like, a Mothman or a Bigfoot or, any other like, chupacabra, those type of things.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Man, bear, pig.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there Wookiees? I think that's what it is. I think they're Wookiees that were released after they filmed, Return of the Jedi.
Or after they sat there and did when they did the Moon Forest of Endor and the California Redwoods,
yeah.
They were like, "Oh, we can't keep you here. It's a tourist spot." And just let them free.
Right. But there's a lot of theories about that. And we were talking with a friend we had on our show. They went to the Mothman Festival and did some investigation, into that type of sighting around Point Pleasant down there. And I think the Mothman Festival is this weekend or coming up real quick. But they actually went out to some sites where Mothman sightings had occurred, and they actually had a confrontation with nothing that was Mothman-ish. But what they described as, I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, and I wasn't until they told me. It was actually was Annie Weeble and Brendan Shea, good friends of ours. They told us about, they came upon this female figure that had almost very pale skin, very bright eyes, and very Nordic looking. And there's actually a classification of an alien race called the Nordic alien. And if you Google it and look at pictures, man, it's weird. It's crazy. They're crazy.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
And that's the only way they could describe what they saw. And it was there, and it turned, and she said it left. It was just, but Mothman he's some variation of, out of this world creature.
I'm telling you, they just shapeshift to fuck with us. Yeah. They're like, stupid humans. Like, nobody's gonna believe you guys.
Well, going back to that interview we had with Thomas Wortman.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was that was an amazing interview, and it was so cool having him in studio. And he's actually an Ohio guy, so it's awesome. He said along with that experience where the gentleman he was with saw the Sasquatch-like entity, and he saw the UFO at the same time, they also came upon in the same time frame what looked like a large white owl that was standing at the edge of the forest watching them. I mean, it was just like this crazy experience, bam, 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 just seeing all this stuff. And I always have this joke with my wife because we'll watch these movies and you're not surely sure where it's going. Then all of a sudden at the end, bam, it's all about aliens. Mental stuff. You think it's like a horror movie or something, but it's all alien. And it really,
yeah, and that's kind of scarier than anything else when you think about it. Yeah. I mean, I know they're real. After I watched The Fourth Kind, I legit, anytime I'd see any type of owl, I'd be like, nah, fuck you, we're leaving. You ain't watching. I legit, I mean, I believe in that. So I've seen, we were in Colorado, we were in Drake, Colorado. And we were in a cabin that was 12,000 feet up in a mountainside, and your nearest neighbor is legit so far away that you just see a speck on the top of the other mountaintop beside you. And there was no air traffic. We had been up there for almost 2 weeks. There was no air traffic, no nothing. Just beautiful, serene. I mean, there were bears, but other than that, wonderful. And my mom, who does not believe in anything, who's not religious, she's not easy to sway to believe towards certain things. we were standing outside one night, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see this huge five-lighted thing. I don't even know how to describe it. It was just 5 huge ass lights.
Yeah.
And they just appeared literally out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they were sitting right on the side of one of the other mountaintops.
Oh, wow.
And then all of a sudden, and I'm telling you, like, almost as soon as this thing came, maybe like 5 minutes afterwards, 2 black military helicopters came in from the right. 2 black military helicopters came in from the left. And the weirdest thing to me was that they didn't, like, first of all, that they came, like, in such a tactical way that they surrounded it almost.
Yeah.
But it was weird to me that if it was just a light, they would be able to fly through it.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They would be able to fly in front of the path.
Mm-hmm.
They dropped down, and one team went down and one team went over. Like, they had to go over this. It's not a light. It's not something you could just pass through. They're going around this huge ass fucking light, and I'm like, you know what? I've watched X-Files and I've watched Unsolved Mysteries enough times to know that this is a fucking UFO, okay?
Yeah.
And luckily, they had a telescope up on the 2nd floor. So me and my mom, keep in mind, my mom does not believe in shit. She's like, what the fuck? We run up to the 2nd floor.
Yeah.
And we look through it, and it's exactly like I've seen on all of the different, you know, MUFON files, the different alien reports that because I watched all that stuff on Discovery and History Channel and stuff. I watched all of those shows and all those documentaries, and I'm like, it's like the Pyramid Triangle one. Oh my god!
That's awesome.
And they just kept trying to, like, scope it out almost. And keep in mind, we're pretty close to where NORAD is.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And I'm like, there's no way that this is them just checking out something they do. Why would they do this in a tourist area? First and foremost, like the hills of the mountains where they have nothing but tourist cabins and stuff. That'd be weird. Then all of a sudden, out of fucking nowhere, I swear, these lights just disappeared. Just completely disappeared.
Wow.
And then, like, maybe 7-8 seconds later, reappeared way the fuck across, away from the military helicopters, like they were trying to get away.
Yeah.
And then it lit up again for a little bit, and then it just went boom and was completely gone. And my mom, still to this day, is like, I don't believe in God, but I believe in UFOs. Like, she is such an adamant believer that it's hilarious, because, like I said, she don't believe in anything, but she knows what she saw that night.
Yeah, sometimes it's just, you know, it is what it is. Yeah. I haven't had it, you know, unfortunately, I haven't had, like, a real experience where I've witnessed something like that. You know, when I grew up in the country, I spent a lot of hours out at night, you know, staring at the beautiful sky. But I unfortunately, you know, not something I've been able to witness, though.
Apparently, mountain ranges are a huge thing for that. I actually, before I found out I got pregnant, was going to do kind of like a crossover of Cryptic, Paranormal, and UFO study for one of my documentaries, because there's a particular town in Texas that's like a little bit of everything. It's literally a deserted ghost town, but has it's the 3rd on the highest sightings of UFOs on the City of Texas list. So, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, and I wanted to kind of see how experiencing one thing would another thing happen at the same time. Yeah. Because you want to see those not coincidences, but, like I said, the correlations between the two. Yeah. I just want to capture, like, all 3 at the same time.
You want to track
like,
stuff. Yeah, that'd be amazing. That would be, I'm trying to get in better shape so I can get into the, you know, exploring, you know, and searching for Sasquatch, and, you know, being able to go for longer distances and kind of get into that area a little bit more. You know, but I don't know. There's too many consequences, too many experiences where people have seen different aspects kind of correlate in the same experience. So there's got to be connection. I mean, it's what makes sense. I don't know.
Because, I mean, nothing... To try and dismiss it would be ignorant of us. I mean, there's so much more going on. And I think that's okay for some people. I mean, you know, some people are the ones that don't watch, like my fiance, he doesn't watch scary movies. The closest thing I can get him to watch a scary movie is a zombie
My
movie.
co-host
And like they have to be
scary
like
movies.
and they have to be like funny zombie
Yeah.
movies. If you, and especially because, like we said, you open yourself up to any type of energies, you don't know what they could do, or you don't know how they'll react to yours or use yours. And so I guess for people to stay kind of distant or closed-minded to it is a good way to protect yourself in a certain aspect. But oh man, I wish everybody was just more, because I believe that if everybody who truly had a story of any type of encounter were to come forward, we'd be a way further along with our research and the progress that we've made in giving definitive answers to everything. But everybody's so afraid to look crazy, they won't.
You know, just as well as I do, a lot of people are bound by their religion or their beliefs, and like you said, just afraid to go against the norm. They just want to stay plugged into the matrix, and just ignorant of the glitches. You know, the things that are there, but you know, we're not letting ourselves.
If they only knew what like constantly surrounds them every single day, like the energy that literally just shrouds every single one of us, because it never dies, it stays.
Yeah,
it's always going to be there.
Yeah. Physics books don't get it wrong. Energy does.
Yeah, if you don't want to listen to Aaron Goodwin,
you
can at least listen to Nikola Tesla.
Yeah. I mean, nobody better to listen to than Einstein. You know, that type of thing. It's just, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. I didn't want to take up too much of your time because I know that you're trying to get out there.
Oh, yeah, I got some investigating to do.
Yeah, you do. We're going to do the outro real quick and close out the show, and then you can go ahead and get your ghosting on.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been a...
Of course. Next time, when we have more time, we'll get into way more. I didn't even touch like half the stuff I wanted to talk about because I would have kept you on for like 5 hours.
Oh, I could have gone. I mean, we do a 2-hour show, and that first half an hour kind of getting the feel for the guests, you know, it's a little rough, you know, trying to, but then, you know, before you know it, the 2 hours is up, and like, oh man, I need to talk more. So
yeah, like I'll email you some questions.
Yeah. Friending them on Facebook frantically.
All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and do the outro. Thank you so much again, Gooz. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. You have a wonderful night, and remember to be safe.
Absolutely.
Especially in that place.
Yeah. Safety is key. But we're going to have some fun, so thank you for having me on.
Of course. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, so I let him go a little bit early because he's actually out at Madison Seminary right now with Mr. John Ward from the Into the Abyss podcast. But before we go, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the outro. Make sure that you guys have all of the resources that you need for the next few weeks. So if you are a loved one or a victim of bullying, no matter your age or circumstance, please call the number below or go to the website to get help. Someone does care. We live in a diverse society, in fact, a diverse world, and we must learn to live in peace and with respect for each other. That was from Mr. Stanley. You guys can also make sure you watch the American Ghost Hunters show. For our Stomp Out Bullying campaign, you can go to 877-NO-BULLY or the stompoutbullying.org website to make donations to get resources. If you... Give me 1 second. It's always going to take a minute to catch up on the slides. But here are all of our other shows for our U Media Network. You have Gooz's show, the Cryptic Paranormal show. It's on Thursday nights at 6, and it's from 6 to 10. Or no, from 8 to 10, I do believe now. You have the Not Today Satan podcast. You have Into the Abyss with John Ward and Sean Gilmore. You have the Acoustic Shadow with Beth Deering, the RU Radio Network's first show, I do believe, with Mr. Richard Spassoff. And then you have the newest shows that we just added from, I think it was Paranormal Addiction Radio and Justin Brown's podcast, I do believe. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody who watched. Thomas, we are about to end, but you can go ahead and catch us in archive. Thank you, Shelly. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Denise. And Eileen. Let's see. If I'm missing anybody else, I do apologize. Sometimes the comments actually delete themselves. Well, they disappear before I can get to them. If you guys have any other questions that you'd want answered by either of us for the next show we end up doing together, it'll be a while, but I'll go ahead and save them and ask them. Alright, caught up with all the comments. Alright, yes, it was a great show. I love having him on. I love being able to talk just more about the paranormal, everything weird, freaky. You guys know you can find it here on Storming the Unknown. And with that said, if you want to discover the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And you guys have a wonderful night and a wonderful weekend.